3 months ago, we traveled to Dallas, Texas, and Bishop T.D. Jakes Potter's house to produce 2 programs on manhood. While I was there, I talked with Bishop Jakes about his new book, Let It Go. We talked about couples forgiveness and how walking around carrying a grudge against your spouse really can damage your marriage.
We are told by statisticians that the leading cause of divorce is over finances, then second is infidelity. I say that they're both wrong. The leading cause of divorce is unforgiveness. Because if you have a forgiving format in a relationship, you can overcome bad economics. You can even survive infidelity if you're willing to change. But if there is a pattern in the DNA of how you process problems, where you carry unforgiveness, that is a cancer to that relationship.
What I found to be interesting is that somebody will be quicker to forgive a boss for not promoting them, for doing something to them on the job, than something real basic that happens in the home.
Well, it's true, and I think it's because we have such an emotional investment there, and we are so scarred. But don't think for one moment that unforgiveness doesn't affect the workplace, because there's so much what we call playing politics in the office is often unforgiveness, where we have spite and envy. We want to make other people look bad, and it slows down production. It affects the bottom line. I spent a chapter of the book dealing with how unforgiveness in the workplace can affect the productivity, the bottom line, because when people don't flow well together, they don't communicate well. When they don't communicate, the institution begins to hemorrhage, not only emotionally, but economically. If we understand this pattern, Roland, then what we have to do is begin to let some things go without having the classic resolution. I'm not going to forgive them until they do blank. And we have all of this criteria whereby we must forgive people. And sometimes we have to realize that if we harbor things like that and had set that criteria, you have given the power to the perpetrator, and you're not going to be free until they do something, so you are enslaved to their next action. Forgiveness is a gift you give yourself.
But there are some things that people say are unforgivable. There are some things that people say are unforgivable. Wives will say, there is no way in the world I can forgive a husband for cheating on me. And husbands say the exact same thing. I know someone who early in their marriage had an affair. They went to counseling. Wife said she forgave him, but then some 15 years later, it all came back up, and this person said, wait a minute, I thought this stuff had been dealt with 15 years ago.
The problem with that is it sets a pathology in the family. The children are watching. Unforgiveness is a learned behavior. So when mom and dad have conflicts and they can never forgive each other, you are reproducing that tendency in the next generation, which is horrific. The second problem is we could be unforgiving if we would never need forgiveness. But because sooner or later you're going to need forgiveness, you have to be willing to give forgiveness. And you know, not only because it's right, though it is. The other reason is if you don't give forgiveness, even when other people forgive you, you don't receive their forgiveness because you don't really believe that it's possible to be forgiven, and it affects your relationship with God.
Are you amazed when this happens a lot of times in families where it'll be Christmas or Thanksgiving all of a sudden, and you're supposed to be there for a nice, wonderful family get-together. And it always happens where that fool brings up something that took place in their childhood, and I'm the person going, seriously, you got to let that go.
Right.
I mean, I just can't imagine something happening when you were 7 or 8 where your mom and dad didn't let you go somewhere and you still walking around with it as a grown person.
The reason I wrote Let It Go, I think a lot of people want to let it go. They don't know how to let it go. So to tell them, you know, you need to be forgiving, you need to let it go, but they don't know how. We have to arm them with the tools to release the past. And that's what I really set out to do in Let It Go, to really give you a pragmatic system where you can begin to release the past and not be held hostage to it. The only reason to be unforgiving toward someone is when you believe what they did stole your destiny. And see, then you are unforgiving because you think, I would have been so much further if it hadn't been for you. But if you believe, as I do, that all things work together for the good of them that love the Lord, even negative things, even painful things, push you toward your destiny, then not only can you forgive the perpetrator, in many cases you can go back and thank them, because if they had not attacked you like they did, you wouldn't have had the force to rise up against them like you did. And so I really have a very positive attitude. I am not saying I don't get angry. I do. I spent a whole chapter talking about why the Bible said, be ye angry and sin not. You have a right to be angry. You don't want to lose your anger. You don't have to be docile to be forgiving. It's not wrong to be angry. It's wrong to stay angry. Anger resteth in the bosom of fools.
Again, the title of the book is called Let It Go. It's available in bookstores nationwide. You can also download it through Kindle as well as your Nook. So be sure to pick it up and give yourself or someone else the gift of forgiveness.